I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
This is Snowman in the Morning, and it begins now.
That's a spicy meatball!
Excuse me, bitch!
You know what? That makes me mad.
I ask myself, is it worth it? I answer myself, yes, it is worth it.
Did you not get the memo?
Good morning, everybody. I'm not in a jumpy mood yet because of the lead story that I have. It just hits home with me. Let me welcome you all to Snowman in the Morning on this Tuesday. Glad you're with us, and let's dive right in. I am so mad at myself that I missed this story, but a couple videos got my attention over the weekend. And I might just become a full-blown advocate for this. And a story out of Washington State University. The coroner in Whitman County, Washington, announced this past Thursday, that Washington State quarterback Tyler Hilinski died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound at his off-campus apartment Tuesday. Police found Hilinski in his apartment after he failed to show up for a team workout. They discovered a rifle next to his body and a suicide note. He was 21 years old. This is according to this is taken from the Washington Post. Quote, "We are deeply saddened to hear the news of Tyler's passing. He was an incredible young man, and everyone who had the privilege of knowing him was better for it. The entire WSU community mourns as thoughts to his family." Close. As I'm looking at a picture, it reads, quote, "R.I.P. Tyler, you will forever be our comeback kid. Wave the Coug flag in heaven for us. Once a Coug, always a Coug." USC coach Clay Helton, heartbroken by the news this evening. Our thoughts and prayers, this is a tweet, by the way, go out to the Hilinski family and the Washington State community. Coach Ken Wilson, he tweets, quote, "I am broken tonight, trying to find the words. I love you and will miss you, my son. You brighten the lives of everyone around you. You brought more joy to this earth than you will never ever know. May you rest in peace." Drew Bledsoe and Ryan Leaf, also former Washington State standout quarterbacks, also chimed in. On social media, Ryan Leaf said, "I am so fucking angry. I can't stop crying." Close quote. Washington Post continues to read, Leaf, who has had well-chronicled legal and substance abuse issues, referred last year to his own botched suicide attempt in an essay for the Players Tribune. On Wednesday, he said, "Every human life is precious. All I wish is that I could have been in that apartment in Pullman, looked that amazing young man in the eyes and said, 'You're loved, Tyler. I'm just like you. I've been here. There was hope. Hugged him and never let him go.'" Calling Hilinski a great friend and mentor to my son, Bledsoe pleaded for those in emotional distress to view reaching out for help as not a sign of weakness, but as the ultimate sign of strength. I'll stop reading there, and I'll chime in there. That is so true. You know why this hits home with me so hard? Because I've been there. You know why this hits me so hard? Because I know how the kid feels. Now, granted, a lot of people will look at me differently than look at this 21-year-old kid and saying, "Snowman, you don't have anything going for you." That kid did. He was going to be the starting quarterback next year. Stop it, okay? Suicide and depression know no culture. They know no color. They know no creed. I know I'm going to talk about this a little later on the show when I explain why I haven't done basketball play-by-play since December. But how the hell do you know what's going on in people's heads that have suicide swirling all around inside their heads? No one knows what's going on until they convey it. Not just what's going on in their head, but why they are feeling the way that they're feeling. When I saw this, I cried. I cried for the young man. I wish I could have been there, a regular guy. Just to say, hey, you are loved and appreciated. You want to know something wild? As an adult, as adults, we're not told that enough. You know, usually the argument is you need to say that to kids, and it's true. But why don't adults hear that? More to the point, I'm going to piss a lot of people off this morning, and I don't care. Why don't adult males hear that a lot? Why don't adult males hear how much they are loved and appreciated, especially ones in high-pressure performance positions such as one Tyler Helinski was in? You know, just going about your day, everything seems fine, and then this happens. What was you know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering what was the last straw? What was the straw that broke his back? What was the one thing that was said to him or done to him that broke him in half? You never know what that point is. I've been there. And there are some days I'm still there, even though I've been blessed with a wonderful family. You know, when I hear Sarah and her frustration, it weighs on me because I want to do something for her so badly with whatever she's frustrated with, and then times I realize I can't do it, and it just hits me even harder. It continues to hit me even harder. We do not know what this young man was going through internally, mentally, emotionally. That's the one question I have. It seems like everything was going for him, but we cannot fully say that it was. How do we know what he's feeling? Only he knew what the final straw was. Only he knew what broke his back. It ain't fair to a lot of people. But I find it crazy that all this outpouring comes out after he's gone. Why don't you give him this outpouring during the season? Why don't you give him this outpouring when something's on his mind? Now, do we know that happened? No. No, we don't know. But my question still remains. Why don't we give this kind of outpouring to young and old men that are going through a lot? Want to know something? The suicide rate among men is ridiculous. This is why I fight to keep the man-empowerment movement going. And I'm about to start crying here because I know what the kid went through. There's some days I still go through it. Y'all going to have to forgive me. There are some days I wanted to take a gun to my own head and blow my brains out. The worst of it was when I was in a mental hospital in Michigan City, Indiana, this past July. The people that thought I had dropped off the face of the earth and didn't check back with me and didn't allow me to tell them what's going on, I don't need y'all. But to the ones that stuck with me, Sarah included, thank you. I just wish the people that were there for this young man in death were there with him in life. Now, could I be totally wrong about this, about him not getting the emotional support that he needs? Yeah, I could be totally wrong. And if it comes out later on, if it comes out later on that he did, I'll have a different assessment. But this is what I'm feeling right now. Sarah thought I had dropped off the face of the earth when I was gone those 5 days. I didn't. I just didn't have access to my phone nor my computer. I'll tell you something, you know what really pisses me off? Is that the people that say they are there for you turned out not to be. Now, I know I'm going to talk about this crazy loon later on in the show, but Donna Kavanaugh started some of this shit. She had me move back in with her when I left Jasper. I needed a place to escape. I needed to get out of Jasper because it was getting worse. So she let me stay with her. I was trying to get back on my feet. It wasn't fast enough for her. So she kicked me out on July 15th, and 4 days later, I'm at Starbucks. Here, the thing that really brought it to a boil. Had a job interview, did great, was scheduled to start that night. 2 problems. I had 2 bags worth of stuff with me, and when I got off of work, which was going to be a night shift job, I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to rest. And the people there at the company where I was supposed to work, oh, you would have plenty of time to rest. I couldn't tell them everything that was going on. That's my fault. But then she kicks me out on the 15th. 4 days later, she's at Starbucks trying to be my friend, trying to wonder what the hell's going on, when I told a couple people, fuck it, I'm done. And then she shows up? No, that's bullshit. Didn't check on me once while I was in the hospital. She had the number. Didn't check on me once. I had to call her. I absolutely had to call her. And I don't care how people feel about me exposing this. I really don't care anymore. People need to hear it, and the men need to get their stories out, which is why I implore men that are going through depression and have thoughts of suicide, get it out. Talk to somebody. I don't care how she feels. She can be as butthurt as she wants to be. But to go back to an earlier point, nobody knows what folks are going through unless you allow them to talk. Unless you allow them to be in a comfortable position where they can get everything out that they're feeling. I'll speak about this later on in the show. I got Mike Green coming up after the break, Ralph Uriarty after that, and then I'll close with why I haven't done play-by-play in such a long time. Well, it seems long to me, but I had to lead off with this story. And I'm going to implore everybody that is thinking or having thoughts of suicide. If you're going through depression, whatever the hell you're going through right now, if you are having thoughts of ending your life, call the suicide prevention hotline. Call them, call a friend, call somebody, but get it out. We don't want you to be the next casualty.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
Next! What? Are you kidding me? Need a little excitement?
You know what? That makes me mad.
Welcome back. Snowman in the Morning has taken to the road, the Express Edition, on this Tuesday. And as I told you after I had my opening story, I'm a little pissed off. at my beloved hockey team, the Chicago Blackhawks, who are in a free fall right now. After taking a look at the standings and seeing some of the games, there's no way they're making the playoffs. Not this unit. But I got someone to help me break this down, and y'all know him very well. Let's go inside the green room with my buddy Mike Green. What's going on, man?
How you doing?
I'm not happy with the Blackhawks right now. Period.
No, there's not to be happy about. They are 5 points out of a wild card spot. They've got a daunting schedule coming up, especially this week. They've had of the last 8 games, 7 are at home. So far, they're 1-4 in this homestand. And they were supposed to make ground on this homestand, catch up. That hasn't happened.
And it hasn't been happening for a while. I mean, what is going on with this team?
Well, there's a myriad of factors that have led to their free fall, and the biggest one to me is that their core players, the Keith, the Seabrooks, the Jonathan Tays. I wouldn't include Kane. I mean, Kane has been terrific as usual, but their core players have gotten older. They've gotten slower. Anybody who's been watching this team this year can see that our core guys have lost a step. Jonathan Tays is only 29. He looks like he's 39 out there.
Yeah, he does.
And I think what you're seeing what's happening. It's been a wonderful 9-year run. If you include all the playoff games and all the trips to the Stanley Cup Finals over the last 9 years,
there's a lot of miles on their legs.
They basically have played one extra season besides everybody else except for maybe Pittsburgh. And you add up all these games and all the mileage on these tires, I think that's what you're seeing. These guys have gotten old. The core guys have gotten older. And with all the breaking of the young players, which I do like on this team just hasn't meshed. Defensively, they're horrible. Without Corey Crawford, they don't have any solid goaltending, so they're really in trouble.
They are indeed in trouble. And you know how big of a piece of the puzzle Corey Crawford has been during this run. So what's the first step that the Blackhawks should take in fixing this? Well, not even fixing this, just rebuilding the darn thing.
Well, I don't think this is a team that needs a full rebuild. They got a good core, young base of players. The Brinkets, the Schmaltz, Hartmans, David Comp, guys like that. The problem that the Hawks got is they locked in their core guys to these excessive long-term contracts like Seabrook and Keith and Tays, and other general managers in the league are not stupid. They're not going to take those kind of contracts. For instance, Seabrook, who's only 32 years old, but who has clearly lost a step.
Yeah, you can.
He's locked in for another 6 years at $7 million per. There's no team in the league that's going to take that contract for a guy that's on decline. The same thing with Duncan Keith, Patrick Sharp. Nobody's going to take him. So the Hawks are stuck with these contracts. That's going to be an issue going forward when they're trying to create more salary cap space. So they're in a bit of a quandary there. If they can find some team, a contending team for the Cup that'll be willing to take these contracts, that's what we need to happen, but I just don't see it.
Who do we keep and who do we sell, to start the repair on this?
Well, the rumor has it that the NHL salary cap is going to go up between $5 and $8 million next season, which will help the Hawks. They got roughly about $7 million of cap space now. But one thing that, to me, that Stan Bowman cannot do is he cannot try to fix this thing. We cannot trade any more draft picks. We cannot trade any more young players. As it is already in next year's draft, the Hawks don't have a second and fourth round pick. So we cannot trade any more youth, and we cannot trade away any more draft picks for a quick fix. I mean, everybody wants the Hawks to go out and get a goaltender right now. I just don't see the point of it. We just may as well ride it with Glass and Forsberg. I don't think you're going to see Crawford for the rest of this year. So I would try to get rid of as many of the core guys as possible. I know that sounds like a really cruel thing to say, but their better days are behind them. I mean, Keith still hasn't scored a goal this year. Seabrook's only got 2. Defensively, they're both liabilities on the ice. I mean, one's 33 and one's 32. Their better days are behind them. Jonathan Tays definitely looks like his better days are behind him. If you're not going to get rid of him, who's going to take on a guy who's got 7 years left on a $10 million a year contract?
So true. So true. And like you said, Kane's been the only one of the core guys that has performed well and has been terrific. But the decline, some of the biggest part of the decline, I think, happened is when Crawford went down with his injury.
Oh, absolutely. We're probably 2 or 3 or 4 games better in the standings if he was healthy. There's no doubt about that. But if you watch the game Saturday night against the Islanders, the Hawks gave up almost 50 shots on goal. They're giving up way too many scoring opportunities.
Yeah.
They're giving up way too many goals. And the D-core has been a problem all year. They don't move the puck like they used to. They're not quick enough in the back end. And it affects their transition game and their ability to create offense. And the bottom line is they got some young defensemen I really like Ruda and Forsling, who's just been sent down, and Gustafson. But their core guys, the veterans, I mean, Connor Murphy to me has been a bust in the Jarmelson trade, and Keith and Seabrook just look like they've aged greatly.
Yeah, they have, and they're not. It's something that you harp on a lot, Mike. Their passing has not been crisp at all.
Oh, it's dreadful.
It is
dreadful.
Very dreadful. And it's, like you said, it's affected their transition game. And you know, throughout this run, you and I have talked a lot on the show, and anyone that's listened to me talk Blackhawk hockey, you know their transition game, if you think about it, that's where they have made their living.
Well, they were the fastest team in the NHL for many years. That is no longer the case. If you watch this team every game like I do, they get constantly outskated. They've got a myriad of problems. Defensively, they're poor. They turn the puck over so much. Their offense is inconsistent. They take way too many penalties. They took, 7-8 penalties against Saturday night.
Yeah.
Their power play has been dreadful all year, which is amazing when you've got that kind of firepower up front, but it's been awful. Even the penalty killing lately hasn't been very good, except for a little run ahead this last couple of weeks. They're taking too many penalties. They spend too much time in the penalty box. They're undisciplined. The pass, it's just a myriad of issues. And, they're only 5 points out of a playoff spot, but the problem is they've got 4 teams in front of them now. And in the NHL, when you got all these overtime games and these 3-point games and shootout games, the teams you're trying to catch, if they get their games to the overtime, they get at least 1 point in the standing, so it's hard to catch up.
Yeah, it is hard to catch up. Mike Green talking some Blackhawk hockey and some NHL hockey with the Snowman this morning on this Tuesday. Usually we're on Wednesday. Had to switch some things around, as I mentioned, with this week and everything that's going on. One other note. You brought up a team that has been absolutely dynamite in their first season. That's the Vegas Golden Knights. They just continue to play and continue to win.
Incredible story. I've watched a lot of their games. Obviously I have the center ice package, so I watch most of their games. And right now they got the best record in the league. I watched them again last night, just take apart Carolina. I'm starting to consider them as a real threat to win the Stanley Cup. If you look at their fast, and their general manager, George McPhee, is going to be given Executive of the Year for putting this team together. They had advantages that expansion teams in the past didn't have. They had a better access to a better pool of players in the expansion draft because of the hard salary cap. A lot of teams left a lot of good players unprotected, and they scooped them up and grabbed them up, and they made some shrewd trades for draft picks and other players from other teams. They really are a talented roster, and it would be insane if a first-year franchise goes on to win the Stanley Cup. That would be unbelievable.
But that's the way that they're playing right now. They're not playing like an expansion team going through some growing pains. They're playing like an expansion team that wants to win it all and win it all often.
Well, as much as I hate to say this, their head coach, Gerard Gallant, former Detroit Red Wing back in the day, he's going to win Coach of the Year. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And George McPhee, their general manager, has done a great job in building a first-year roster. And the thing about it is, in next year's draft, they got like 20 draft picks in a 7-round draft. So it's an incredible job. He built that roster the right way. In today's NHL, you got to have speed and skill. And anybody out there who's watch any Vegas Golden Knights games, that's what they have. They are fast up front, and they can score goals, and that's the name of the game.
And the biggest thing about the Vegas Golden Knights, and you mentioned it so many times, and so many other folks that have come on the show have said it also, they're very, very disciplined.
that's right. They got terrific power play. They don't take a lot of penalties. They stay out of the penalty box. They're fat. Like I said, I've watched a lot of their games, and they're fast up front. They got two excellent goaltenders, Marc-Andre Fleury and Malcolm Subban. And they got great goaltending, solid defense. They can score. They're fast. I mean, they ran the Hawks off the rink in the two meetings that they played this year, and they're doing it to everybody, just not the Hawks.
Yeah, they are doing it to everybody. So to say that Vegas
tonight we play the second best team in the league, Tampa Bay. So this could be a long evening again tonight.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. We're inside the green room talking some NHL hockey with Mike Green. You can hear him every week, and we're going to get back to a consistent day and time to have him on as we reorganize everything with the show. I know one thing I want to hit with you next week, Mike, and you've spoken about this all year, and I'm starting to speak out a lot more about it. I cannot and do not on a consistent basis watch the NFL anymore. I just can't do it.
Well, I don't either, but I think I got a different reason. The kneeling of the players during the season really ticked me off. You know,
yeah.
My father served in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam era. And I know a lot of people out there don't want to hear me talking about this, but when you sit there and you kneel during the national anthem, you're just, I don't care what they say, they're disrespecting our veterans, our police officers, our firefighters, and our country.
Agreed.
And no matter what side of the political fence you're on, really doesn't matter. For me, it just ticked me off, and it still ticks me off. And besides the kneeling, the quality of these games are not very good. There's too many penalties in the NFL. I just prefer college football so much better. I can't wait for college football to start again in 7 months.
Me neither.
The NFL, to me, well, the ratings reflect the NFL is going down. They've had a 25% dip in television ratings. And, you know, like I said, no matter what side of the fence you're on during this kneeling issue, it just ticks me off. And I'm not offended by many things, but that offended me.
It offends me, too. It offends me, too, because not only did my father serve in the armed forces, so did my grandfather. And just to see this and to know the many servicemen and servicewomen that I know, it gets on my nerves. But that's a conversation for next week. Mike Green joining me here via the HiQ. I got it right. I got the read in front of me, and I still messed it up. Via the HiQ Energy Drink Hotline presented by 3 and Out Radio, a syndicated partner of Snowman in the Morning. Go to 3andoutradio.com. That's THR, the number 3andoutradio.com to learn more about HiQ Energy Drink, the better way to energize yourself before, during, and after your workouts. Mike, it's a pleasure, my friend. Can't wait to have you on next week, and we are going to hit this kneeling issue very, very hard and just put it all out there.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate the time.
Okay, thank you.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
Next! What? Are you kidding me? Need a little excitement?
You know what? That makes me mad.
We continue on with this Tuesday edition of Snowman in the Morning, and I said I would limit my talk about the Super Bowl until next week, but one of the participants in it has a fan by the name of Ralph Uriarty. And here he is right now on the hotline, and he's a fan of the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. And he also has a voice for football. He joins me right now. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, what's going on? Glad to be here.
How about those Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, man. Man, oh, man, oh, man. You know, yesterday when the game started, I was nervous. I was super nervous. I was nervous all week. I was like, I would go back and forth, like, you know, we got this.
Right.
And I'd be like, and then it's just like, I don't know, like, we've been so close before. And I told myself, well, I'm like, if we win, it's not going to get any better because I'm going to have 2 weeks of being nervous if we win. And then after that first drive by Minnesota, like, our defense just looked like they were just, our defense looked like I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, they were cut apart on that. They were cut apart on that first drive by Case Keenum, but then
I don't know if that was something that they planned. Maybe they just wanted to see the offense, and so they purposely kind of just blew coverages and stuff. Like, I don't know, honestly. Like, looking back on this, like, did they do it on purpose? Like, did they want to see the offense and see what they were going to do before they decided to shut them down?
Oh, shut them down.
And Philadelphia's first drive didn't go over very well either.
Well, shut them down they did, to the tune of 38 unanswered points. And there was a key word that I mentioned during my preview last week that you had to take Tom Brady out of, and you certainly had to take Nick Foles out of, with Nick Foles making his first start in the conference championship game. You had to take him out of his rhythm. And Nick Foles was in a great rhythm on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he picked up right where he left off last week. He started in the second quarter last week. He got into his rhythm, and he never got out of it. He picked up right where he left off at.
What do you think got Nick Foles started?
The RPO. The RPO and the offense changed. Doug Peterson spent the bye week studying all of Nick's 2013 offense. He went through every single play that Nick did during 2013. He went through every single game, broke down everything. Because I mean, that was Nick's best year. That was the 27-2 year. That was the 7 touchdowns against the Raiders year. That was the MVP of the Pro Bowl year. That was, his best year in his career. So, I mean, what a better year to break down than his best year. And so Doug Peterson sat down with Nick Foles, and they broke down the entire season to see what worked and what didn't. And they found out what worked, and it was Chip Kelly's offense. So they applied it to their own offense. And they've been running the Chip Kelly offense for the last 2 weeks.
How about not just the performance of Nick Foles, but the entire Eagles team just picking it up even after that first drive? And that pick six got them not only back in the game, but it just seemed like they were just ready to seize control after that.
Yeah, it was a wrap. After Patrick Robinson got that pick six, it was over. The defense just took over and never ever gave momentum back.
How big was the midseason trade for Jay Ajayi to bolster that running game for Philadelphia?
Oh man, that's going to go down as probably one of the biggest moves of the season, because I don't think we could have done it without him. We lost Sproles. We only had Blunt. I mean, Blunt can only take you so far. I mean, Philadelphia doesn't run with the fullback, and that's what Blunt was running. And New England that year, and so I wasn't too sure we were going to use Blunt. He did pretty well at the beginning of the season, but then we lost Sproles, and we were relying on Corey Clement a lot, and Small was okay, but the guys are hurt all the time, and we lost Ryan Matthews in the offseason. So when that trade came about, because, Miami was upset with him, and it was like, at first I was like, I've been watching Jay Ajayi for a couple of years now. I know he's a really good running back. I wasn't too sure what the deal was between him and Miami. A lot of it, as an outsider looking in, it looked like it was just a power struggle between him and Gase. Like, I don't know what that was, because he doesn't seem to have any problems in Philadelphia at all.
No, I
don't know if it's just the culture here or what, but he doesn't seem to have any trouble whatsoever.
He's been a great addition to the team and bolstered a running game that absolutely needed it. And we talked about how big Jay Ajayi is to the team. Nick Foles stepping in after the injury to Carson Wentz, but it all starts up top with Doug Peterson. How has he been able to turn this thing around?
I honestly think losing Carson Wentz was probably the best thing that could have happened to him as a coach, because he had to adjust. There was no more letting Carson Wentz hide his mistakes anymore. The entire coaching staff had to sit down and change their entire offense to fit a new quarterback, and then they had to figure out how to use Jay Ajayi better, because the Eagles haven't been the best at running the ball all season. Even when they got Jay Ajayi, they still weren't. They were still rather like Carson throw the ball than let Jay run it. But once they lost Carson, they had to sit down and dig deep and spend the entire bye week changing their offense and coming up with new players and developing the RPO options for Nick Foles and putting their trust in Jay Ajayi. And honestly, I mean, the fact that if Doug Peterson isn't the coach of the year, it's a shame, because what he did to this team is just phenomenal.
It is indeed, and Doug Peterson should be the coach of the year. But let's go back to Nick Foles for just a second. And you mentioned something that is so key: designing and changing the offense to fit the quarterback that's in charge, who is Nick Foles, going into Super Bowl 52 in 2 weeks in Minnesota. Him being under that Chip Kelly-style offense worked, as you said. And, Peterson took every note that he could about how that offense was run, had to trust Jay Ajayi, had to trust some more people. But let's go up front with that offensive line, giving Foles the time and the blocking that he needs to execute this offense.
Having Wisniewski in the line helped a lot. The biggest story, though, has to be Vaitai. I mean, Vaitai was Halapuli Vaitai. I think I got it. He fills in for Jason Peters, and in the beginning of the season, people were just screaming for a trade. They wanted to trade for a left tackle. They didn't think Vaitai could do it, and he had his ups and downs. He did really well towards the end, until the end of the regular season. He started struggling right before the playoffs. But I mean, the whole team kind of didn't look the same, like the very tail end of the regular season. And then against the Falcons, like Vaitai was just pancaking people, running people over. The same thing with Kelsey, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson. That entire offensive line was just put on a show against the Falcons. I've seen a highlight reel, and it was just all the pancakes that they put on the Falcons, and they did the exact same thing against the Minnesota Vikings.
They
just demolished them.
What do you think turned it on for him late in the season?
I honestly have no idea. Like, I know that Jason Peters has been a big part of this team, even since he's been out. He calls Vaitai before every single game and talks to Vaitai and goes over the blocking schemes and goes over things that he's seen on film, and against the defenseman that Vaitai is going to go against. He tells them what he knows about who he's going against, what they like to do, how to defend against it. And it's been the same thing for a lot of these guys that are out. I mean, you see Nick Foles on the sidelines talking to Carson Wentz between the plays, and Darren Sproles calls up Kenyon Barner before every game and talks to him about every single punter. Jordan Hicks does the same thing with the middle linebackers. I mean, just because these guys are out, it doesn't mean that they're not off the team. That's something you don't see with a lot of other teams. And once they're on IR, like, you don't see them anymore. But, I mean, this team, they've stuck together through thick and thin, and they're not going to give up on each other. And I think they just go to show, like, the culture in that locker room is just phenomenal, especially compared to what it was a couple years ago under Chip Kelly.
And they will take that culture and the belief and the family atmosphere to U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and take on the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 52. And I guess you could say this will start our 10 days of breakdown of the Super Bowl. We'll get some stuff on the Patriots later this week, and then I'll have Ralph back on next week leading up to the Super Bowl to see what Philadelphia needs to do to bring a title home to Philadelphia, to the city of brotherly love. Ralph Uriarty joining me here via the Cleaver Supplements hotline this morning. Tell everybody where they can find you online, my friend.
Well, right now I am the media manager for the Red Zone with Kelly and Rashawn. We are on the Momentum Shift network of radio shows on Blog Talk Radio. And I'm just in charge of the social media right now. I'm kind of taking a break from writing for this season. I wrote a lot last season, and then I just kind of take a break. It was just, I think I just need to step away for a little bit. I've written a couple articles here and there throughout the season, but right now I think I'm leaning a little more towards radio. Radio seems to be a little more fun, more open. I like it a lot more.
Well, whenever you want to hop on Snowman in the morning, you let me know. There's a microphone and a seat waiting for you, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Talk to you guys later.
Pause for a break, and when we come back, I'll tell you all the reason I stepped away from doing play-by-play for basketball. And there are quite a few of them. Snowman in the morning, back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning, where true sports talk lives.
Next! What? Are you kidding me? Need a little excitement?
You know what? That makes me mad.
Tomorrow I will discuss my love for college sports and how it's growing more than my love for professional sports. And I'm just going to speak from the heart. That'll be tomorrow. Talk some more college sports, who's doing what in men's and women's college basketball, and more. And we'll continue our breakdown of the of the Patriots and the Eagles for Super Bowl 52. We'll have our breakdown all the way through to Super Bowl Sunday, and I'll have a special edition of Snowman in the Morning. That's Sunday, 11 a.m., and we'll have a couple of hours breakdown for you until kickoff. Now, anyone that knows me knows I absolutely adore doing play-by-play for different sports, be it basketball, baseball, football. But this past season, the 2017-2018 season, has been my least busiest season, I would say, in 5 years. And there's a myriad of reasons behind that. I didn't do that much baseball in 2017. In fact, you know how many baseball games I did in 2017? A grand total of 1. And that was in Chicago, a regional championship. When I came back from Jasper, Indiana, I had so many plans to do as much baseball between Indiana and Illinois and just jump right back into it, because after the debacle in Jasper with News Now Du Bois County and the people I've had to deal with there, it just didn't work out. So I figured, I'll get back in familiar territory, jump back on, and, just go with it. Well, it didn't work out that way. In fact, it has taken me till the top of this year for me to realize I basically had to start over. And the reason I had to start over, part of it was due to equipment, part of it was due to lack of contact with some folks after I left for Jasper last March. Part of it was, and I never thought I would say this, I was just burnt out. I had a wicked stretch. I will say from 2013 to the end of 2016, when the problems really started to multiply for me off the microphone, that I did not go more than 3 days than having a play-by-play call. The only time that didn't happen is when I could not do any summer baseball. I couldn't latch on with a team, couldn't get my company latched on with a team. And that I understood, because I needed to take the summer off and just relax. But even then, I was getting ready for football. I was preparing as much as I could. But after December and what has turned out to be the last game I did at Central State, some things had to change. I wasn't getting any sponsorship money for covering Central State. I couldn't get out and around to fish around for sponsors. I just felt stuck. I didn't know what to do. And then Sarah and I had a nice, long, real talk. When she said, "You know what, Snowman? You may not like what I'm about to suggest." And I already knew it was coming. You may need to get something part-time to put some money in your pocket just so you can use that money that's coming to you and invest in yourself and rebuild. Y'all know I freaking hate the word rebuild. But in this case, it applies. The true people that have stuck with me, Christy Atkins, Shane Lake, Richard Garcia, J.J. Neely, Ralph Garcia from NGSE Sports, the true ride or die crew that has stuck with me. I can't tell y'all enough how much I appreciate you. The ones who were only there when times were successful, fuck y'all, I don't need you. I know I shouldn't be swearing, but I mean every word of this. Fuck y'all, I don't need you, period. And I'm not going to need you either. There were a lot of people that came to the forefront on that side of the ledger after I went in the hospital for 5 days in July. You know, and I led off this morning with the story of Tyler Helinski, the Washington State quarterback who committed suicide when it seemed like he had everything going for him. I'll say something now that I said earlier in the show. It may look like everything's going for someone, but you have no idea what's going for who and what they're going through behind the scenes. So people cannot make any kind of judgment saying, oh, well, he has this going for him. He's got no reason to kill himself. How the hell do you know? You know, Mike Leach said he exhibited no signs of wanting to kill himself. No suicidal thoughts, no suicidal tendencies. When people go through that kind of depression, when people go through those stages, Lord knows I've been there. And some days still there. You don't know what their thinking is. You do not know what they are feeling or hearing in their head, in their heart, in their soul. People just don't know. And you cannot make an assumption about who's feeling what. It's like I said when I went into the hospital in July for 5 days because I reached a boiling point in dealing with my depression. When I came out, everybody who I thought would be there was not, including one Donna Kavanaugh, who kicked me out of her house. And she hates when I mention her name, but I'm going to speak the truth. I'm going to call it the way I see it. Donna Kavanaugh and I met in 2014, thought we'd be friends forever. Wrong. Wrong. This bitch is crazier than a loon. She dropped me at the hospital with the help of the police, and she said, let them help you. Walked away and didn't come back. And then I talked about her ass on my blog, My Life in Two Bags. She tried blowing up my phone. She tried blowing up my messenger. And she got real snooty. No, let me say it correctly. She got real shitty because I found out. I finally listened to people who were telling me about her punk ass. And I don't really care how she hears this, when she hears this, or where she hears this. I don't really care. I am caring about speaking the truth on what the hell went on. And if people don't like the fact that I speak the truth and I call their name out on my personal platform, well, you know what? You can kiss my ass in the process. I don't care anymore. I'm calling out the people I need to call out. And I'm also imploring society to think first before making an assumption on what someone is feeling and why they're feeling it. You know why I stepped away from doing, another reason why I stepped away from doing play-by-play, besides not producing any money, I didn't have the love for it anymore, going out and coming up empty. Now, granted, I love strapping on the headset and doing what I love to do, but I was disorganized. I didn't realize how disorganized I was. But that's going to change. That is going to change. That is going to be redone. I'm looking at some schools and some teams right now to link up with. And to the people, not just the person, because we all know who the main person is. I'm getting his punk ass for slander. But to the bitches who accompanied him in trying to soil my name and soil my company's name, including the bitch who stole $1,000 from me in the form of a sponsor, your time is coming. Don't know when that will be, but your time is coming. Best believe that. To my former clients, I apologize. I didn't know how much turbulence I had around me. And again, to the people who tried to soil my name, all you did was make me more ornery than usual. And you won't know how ornery I am until you see a lawsuit slapped on your ass. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Snowman out.